Well, welcome into Toyota Stadium, fans. Another Texas Derby. And Victor, this year, the teams might be good. That's the biggest difference, it seems like, from 2021. It was a frustrating year last year, but both teams have turned the page, Victor. At least so it seems. We're a fifth of the way through the season. Both teams sit not only in the playoff places, but they sit together because there is very little separating these two teams. We'll see if there's something that separates them today on the field at Toyota Stadium. We did these games last year. We did these live streams last year, Victor, and we know that Texas soccer fans care about every single match their team is involved in. But this one feels different. It feels special, and it feels a bit like a throwback to those games that I wrote about on the Striker Texas that people can check out, where we had those magical moments. We'll see if something gets added to that list of best moments in the history of the rivalry today.
Yeah, how the turntables in Texas is finally some two quality sides. It's early in the season, but the important thing here is, I get the feel of this could be. I'm not saying it will be, but it could be maybe the best Texas Derby, depending on what happens here today. There's definitely some good ingredients. Velasco, Quintero, Pereira, the other Pereira.
Yeah. I think both teams, and let's talk about Houston getting better in the offseason and Dallas getting better in the offseason. It seems like both teams, Houston with the obvious ownership change, front office change, coaching change.
Dallas looked like they got new owners too.
But that's the thing, is that there have been efforts by both teams' ownerships to improve. I don't want to say that last season they had egg on their face or were embarrassed, but it certainly seemed like there was a recognition from both teams' ownerships that things had to be better. And in Houston, we've seen that with some spending, but also I think with Paulo Nakamura coming up with something that really fits his scheme, his players. And so far, the Dynamo have seen success in his system.
Yeah, and I think you can say that for both teams, right? I mean, and even Austin as well. Solid defensively. They've tightened up some of those mistakes. We've seen the three teams be semi-explosive at times. Can they be consistent? I think Dallas is the closest now with their three guys up top. I don't know what we're calling it. I gave it the FAV.
I like that because then you can call it the favorite or the favored trio, right? I think that's like, if we're going to force a name on them, I like the FAV. But, those are two new pieces, both winger Paul Ariola and Alan Velasco. FC Dallas spent big money, some of it MLS funny money in allocation to bring in Paul Ariola, but that's still spent.
But it's
and big
spent.
American dollars
to
bring in Alan Velasco.
For.
Yeah, and they've seen it. The biggest issue for FC Dallas so far has been that they don't necessarily, especially on the road. Here in Toyota Stadium, they've been fine. But on the road, they don't necessarily get the ball to those guys enough because when those guys have the ball at their feet, they're dangerous. But against the New York Red Bulls, less than a dozen touches for those attacking players in the final third. That's not good enough. They need more cohesion from the midfield going forward. But they might be able to get that today against the Dynamo, whose defense is missing one of its most important pieces.
Yeah, Tine Chadebe, welcome. Tine Chadebe out for this one. Obviously, he's going to miss it after the double yellow last week. But you know what? The Dynamo have had rotating defenses throughout the first couple of weeks, right? First it was Parker and Steres. Then, Parker got switched out. They brought in Hadebe. Then they brought in Ethan Bartlow. Today it looks like it'll be Bartlow and Parker. So I think that they've meshed well. The key to me has been the new goalkeeper, Steve Clark, coming from the Portland Timbers, giving some stability to this defense, giving it some experience. And really the issue for Houston has been getting the goals up top. Pereira, sometimes I think we like to talk a lot about stats, right? This expected goals. Well, it ain't enough. 0.05 is the highest he's gotten. That for your star player, for a guy you paid a bunch of $1 million for, I can't imagine Tetsigo, the owner, is happy seeing his results.
Meanwhile, the other Ferreira, Jesus Ferreira, the FC Dallas homegrown product, moved to number 9 during this offseason after playing a playmaker role, kind of a sometimes second striker, sometimes as a 10 last year. This year he's wearing 10, but he's playing as a 9, and so far it's working great. 2 multi-game goals at Toyota Stadium, the last 2 league games. Ferreira had 2 goals in the most recent league match and the hat trick last time around. He's already well on track to what he told me before the season on the Striker Texas was his target for a successful year. He said 20 goals plus assists. It looks like he might have to revise that number upward if he keeps playing like this. And it has been something of the difference for FC Dallas, having that number 9 who's finishing off moves, who's scoring goals. Houston maybe still not there yet, but is getting production from another familiar face in Texas, and that's Darwin Quintero, who has sort of reestablished himself, right?
A scientist, yeah. He's kind of a peculiar character, right? Because we know what he can do. We know his magic.
And Tap Ramos didn't seem to know it last year.
Well, and I think that's one of the things you can give a credit to Pablo Nagamura, and maybe in this sense also for FC Dallas, the manager has been a big change in Nico Esteves. But pertaining to Houston, Nagamura has been able to tap into Quintero. I say it at least for now. Depending on how this eventually turns, because it is a long season and that in terms of managing the locker room, managing characters. But yeah, you have a guy like Darwin Quintero who has been there before, done it. He wants to be on the field. He wants to play. You got to find the best way to bring him on the team if you're going to have him, right? And Nagamura, this club has chosen to bet on Quintero. Onset obviously choosing to keep him, and at least so far the results are kind of there. I think there's still some things they can change. But yeah, the first part of that is opportunities certainly starting to blossom.
People starting to filter into Toyota Stadium. A fair amount of Dynamo fans today in the stadium. Also, a lot of FCD fans. I think it's going to be great weather. The rain looked like it might come, but I think it's going to hold off. We're enjoying some good atmosphere. We've definitely seen Texas derbies in the past. I get programmed for the afternoon, and then they end up being absolute slogs because it's 90
Yep.
degrees and humid.
And
Even
some
in
have been
North
just
Texas,
as heated.
and some have been as heated. But Victor, put this game in context for me for the Dynamo. It's a Texas derby. We know it matters to fans. And the Dynamo are obviously going to try and get 3 points in this game, but their schedule is home heavy. They're really at the PNC Stadium. I almost said the old name. They're at PNC Stadium for a lot of the first half of the year.
And we're at Pizza Hut Park.
Yeah, exactly. those home games are important, right?
Yeah, look.
Does the fact that this game is on the road diminish some of the importance, or is it a rivalry game? You got to go for three if you're not going to.
I think there's glass half full, glass half empty, because if you compare it to prior seasons, it's starting to be a success, right? But I think if you're looking at the bigger picture, yeah, you got to prioritize the fact that you got to stack up points now, right? Before you have that summer where you will get Herrera.